Jah is my light, Jah is my life, and my salvation.
Greetings and welcome to another RC Bro video, where our whole objective is to introduce youth to the sciences of electronics and mechanical engineering through RC car technology. Today we're going to do vehicle repair, and the kind of repair we're going to do is typical. It's not unusual. It's the kind of repair that happens when you run a car, particularly a faster car, in an area that doesn't have adequate space. And that's what happened to me. I was running my WLtoys 124008 in an area that didn't have enough space, and I ran into a curb and maybe a pole, and it broke in two places. And so we're going to replace what's called the lower control arms. And that's not an unusual process, because when you are not careful, or even when you are careful, but it can happen to where you run into something and damage the control arms. In addition to that, since I'll have the control arms off, I am going to inspect the differentials and talk about the differentials, and we're going to grease them and make sure they have grease, and if they don't, grease them, because a lot of the channels I look at, they say that the WLtoys don't always put enough grease or lubricant in the differentials, and the way you make them last longer is to keep them greased up. So that's what we're going to do today. So what we have here is a WLtoys 124008 buggy. It's a 3S powered buggy, and as you can see, I have it partially disassembled already. And what the plan is to go over some of the suspension parts, open up the covering for the differential, remove the differential and inspect it, and if necessary grease it up, and then put the new suspension parts on. And if you notice, I have in addition to replacing the damaged parts, I have upgraded parts. I have the aluminum parts, and it wasn't necessary, but I just thought it would be a cool upgrade. The reason why I say it's not necessary, the plastic parts in this car are extremely hard. I tried to bend this myself, but it will not bend. It's extremely hard, and so it's really not necessary to have the metal, but I thought it would be a cool upgrade. In fact, in some cases it's good to have plastic, because when you run into a curb, or if you run into a tree or pole, this breaks as opposed to something on your chassis. So in that respect, it's actually good to have plastic, but I'm not going to run this vehicle anymore unless I have a lot of space, and be very careful. So let's go over some of the parts. This part, the broken part I have here, is one of the control arms on a vehicle, and these have different names. They call them swing arms, control arms. They have different names for them. Different manufacturers for RC cars give them different names, but I like to use the names that's typically used in general automotive technology. And so I've always called these, and when you work on a car, they call them control arms. The lower one's generally called the lower control arm, and the upper one's called the upper control arm. That's this one right here. They're considered part of the suspension of a car, and the suspension is what holds the wheels and allows your car to absorb road shocks. And so looking at all the parts, we have the lower control arm, the upper control arm, and in the back right here, this silver one right here, let's see if I can give you a better look at it. This one right here. Okay. This is called your tie rod, and it's called that because it ties your two wheels together for steering purposes. So it's a steering part. The part where the wheel goes, right here, this is the swing arm, and this is called, this compromises the hub. All this compromises the hub, and so the hub holds the this part right here, which is called the joint. And this is this particular type of joint is what's called a CV joint, or a constant velocity joint. In the RC lingo, they call it CVDs. The other side, they refer to as a dog bone because it kind of looks like a dog bone. And so the dog bone goes into the differential cup. And you see the differential cup is such that it accommodates the dog bone going in and out as the wheel goes up and down. And if you look on this side, this is where the dog bone goes in. And so when you hear people say, oh, it's got CVDs, CVDs means constant velocity joint as opposed to dog bones on both ends. And the CV joint or CVD is considered a superior joint to the dog bone. So continuing forward, this is the drive shaft. The drive shaft, this whole assembly that we were talking about with the CV, the CVD or the CV joint and the dog bone here is a drive shaft. In four-wheel drive cars, and most of these cars are four-wheel drive, you have two drive shafts. You have a left one. You got four drive shafts. You have two in the front. It's the one here, and you got two in the back for the back wheels. Then you have an extended drive shaft in the middle of the car that connects the front drive wheels to the rear drive wheels. And that's also called a drive shaft as well. And you call the whole thing a drive train, your drive train. Once again, there's different names, but I try to use the names that's used for real cars. That way, as you you may transition at one time to work on your own car or to get into automotive mechanics, and you will know what all the parts are once you start working with it. So we're going to get started with taking apart the differential housing or cover, and we're going to take a look at the gears. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pop up this upper control arm here, and from its ball joint, very carefully, or as carefully as I can, just kind of give it a twist, and it should. Oh, this one's really on here. These are thick. If you look at them, they're really thick, so it's taking a little more effort for me to get that off. But it should come up. I'm going to put pressure here, and I'm going to twist, and it should pop off. There it goes. Yeah, these are real heavy. WLtoys has a reputation for having good suspension and steering parts, and so that's why that's heavy. These little silver balls that they hook on to are called ball joints, and they use ball joints in the cars, real cars, but they're a little more sophisticated, but they serve the same purpose. So now that we have that off, I believe I am clear to go ahead and start taking off the differential cover. So let me go ahead and do that.
Jah is my light, Jah is my life, and my salvation. Jah is my light, Jah is my life, and my salvation. What happened to your soul?
Okay, so now we have the gearbox or differential cover off. So now we're going to proceed with removing the differential. And if you look at it, just while it's in here, this is called the ring gear, and this is the drive pinion gear on the end of the shaft, and this is the bearings. And so we're going to remove the dog bone. Is already out, and as you can see, you get a full picture. The dog bone goes into the cup. The cup is the differential, so we have it out now. So now we're going to focus on the differential, and we see grease here, which is a good thing. And now we have to take it apart, because you can see it has these screws and it has to be taken apart. So that's what we're going to do next. You may be curious as to how and why the differential works the way it does. Why is it that when you turn one side, the other side turns the opposite direction? You know, why is that? It seems counterintuitive, but that's the way it's designed. If you imagine it in the car, when you turn, when the pinion gear hits the crown gear or the ring gear, it turns the whole thing. And if you see, look, if you notice, both wheels will be turning at the same time. That's when you're going straight. However, when you turn, your outer wheel actually turns more than the inner wheel. The inner wheel may not turn at all. So say for example, I'm turning and I'm giving power to the car. You'll see the one, this one's still and this one's moving, and that's the way it works when you're turning. See? Same thing if I hold this one, do the same now, but if I'm turning, and so this one stays still, and that's the way a differential works. Okay, so I've cleaned it up a little bit. So now we're going to go ahead and get these 4 screws out, and we're going to see the inside of the differential. Alright, so now we're going to pull it apart, and look at there. It looks kind of dry to me. I don't see a whole bunch of grease. So that's what they're saying. They say that the WLtoys, they don't really grease their differentials, and it doesn't look too good. How does it look to you? Dry. So I'm going to put some grease in there, and I'm going to take care of that. So what I'm using is this stuff, white lithium grease, and this is what most of the RC enthusiasts recommend for the differentials. There's a couple other you can use, but I'm going to use this, and this is for basic. I'm not doing any high performance racing or anything, but this is for basic maintenance. And so I'm going to squeeze some in there and put it back together. One thing about white lithium grease, it's not super heavyweight. It's water resistant, and I've used it for other things in my home repair business, and it's very, it resists changes in temperature. Put some in here. Put this gear. Some underneath there. I think that'll do it. Maybe a little bit more underneath there. Alright, so we'll put it back together. Line the holes up. There we go. Bloop. Clean it up a little bit. Put screws in. Alright, so as you can see, the differential is back in. I put a little white lithium grease on the ring gear, and it seems to be working pretty good. And what I'm going to do is put a little 3-in-1 oil, my favorite oil, 3-in-1 oil on the bearings here. So if I take this out, these are the bearings. And so they're actually would spin, allows this to spin the bearings. And so 3-in-1 oil is my favorite lightweight oil as opposed to WD-40, because to me WD-40 is a waste. And this you can put in as much or as little as you want because it has a little dropper on it. And what I'm going to do is just put a drop here on it, right here. One drop, no mess. Whereas WD-40, you pull the trigger and it sprays all over the place. And this is pure oil. WD-40 is a lubricant, but it wasn't really designed for this type of thing. People use it for all kinds of stuff, but I don't think it's the best. I think 3-in-1 oil is better. 3-in-1 oil was designed for sewing machines, and sewing machines have little bearings and whatnot like this. And so I think it's better, even though 3-in-1 oil is now owned by WD-40. It says it on the back of the container, but I like it better. Alright, so now we're going to put it back together and get back to working on the suspension. Okay, so it is all reassembled after I put the shock tower on backwards, and there's no screws left over, so that's a good thing. And so now we can continue with the suspension. So what I like to do is do one side at a time. This side is completely off, and what I like to do is assemble this side, and I can use this side here as a guide, and that way I won't make any mistakes, and I don't have to try to figure anything out other than to put it back to its original form. So here is the damaged part right here, and as you can see, it was beat up pretty badly, and the metal part rod was damaged, and this plastic is damaged, but the hub part, the part that holds the hub and the CV joint, all that is good. So I'm going to save the whole thing, and it's got good ball joints too, so I'm going to hold on to it. Now I'm going to match it up. Here is the replacement here, so we're going to get these out. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and put these on my magnet so I don't lose them. And we also have the hub assembly as well. We have them for the front and the rear. So this looks like the rear here, this looks like the front. So I'm going to get one of these, and I'm going to open it up, and we're going to see what we have here. Alright, so with a fair amount of effort, actually pretty good amount of effort, after I figured out what parts go where, I assembled the new lower control arm. As you can see, it's pretty much just like the original, except it's made out of blue aluminum. And so I've already transferred the ball joints, and the only thing I have to do is I have a bearing here. I have to put a bearing in right here. If you can see it, I have to put a bearing in before I put in the CV joint, and that's it. The only thing I'm concerned with is that this bar is a little shorter, actually a fair amount shorter than the original one. So we're going to see if that makes a difference. I'm sure it's going to make some kind of difference, but we'll see. So we're going to move this out the way, and we're going to put this over here, and see how this goes. And this is why I keep the old one in place. So I'm putting this in here, and I see it goes right there. So this goes in here like that. You can see this here. Goes in here like that. The rod goes into the chassis. Like this. push it in, and then the control arm goes on the rod. And that's it. And so my concern is that you get a little bit of this rod showing here. It's not much. And the part that's going to go over that, the good thing is the part that's going to hold that together is a metal part. And it's going to go over like this. And oops, might as well put it in place and see. Well, we'll wait. But I believe that's going to be enough to hold it. It's not, I'd rather have more, but I'll take what I can get. So now we have the upper control arm, we have the tie rod for the steering, and we have the drive shaft for the power. And this side is the dog bone, this is the CV joint. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get our new hub here. This also needs a bearing on it. So we're going to put a bearing on it like so. Is that the right bearing? Let's look at the other one. I think it is. Let's see. And it goes like that. No, it's not. I think it should go. Yeah, it's not. So that bearing is the wrong size. Oh no, it's not. It just needs to be pushed down a little bit. And I'm going to put a little my good old 3-in-1 oil, just a drop on it. And just like this. Boom, just a drop. No waste. And wipe just a little bit just in case. And in it goes. And the bearing is in place. And now we're going to put in the tie rod. Let's go ahead and put the tie rod in. Okay, so it's pulling that forward. Why is it doing that? It should just turn. There we go. So tie rod goes right here. Give me pliers and pop that on. And I'm going to orientate it the same way the other one is. So I'm going to do it like that. Okay. Once again, the tie rod goes to the steering linkage for steering. The other side of the tie rod goes to the ball joint on the hub. The steering arm, and you can call this the steering arm on the hub. So that's where that goes. So I'm going to pop that on. I can have the coordination to do it. Okay, so that's in place. Next is we're going to put in, oops, the hub came out, and the bearing. Put that back in. Next, we're going to put in the dog bone in the differential cup. There you go. And to hold it all together, we're going to put in the upper control arm. Try to, if I can, because I don't have enough hands. Okay, so we're going to put this here, pop it on. That's on. Next, we're going to put this on here, and that should be that assembly. Let's see. There we go. And it is in place. Not bad, huh? Okay, it's amazing how the RC cars are very similar to the parts of the RC cars are very similar to the parts of real cars. And I say that because I didn't realize that the bearings that you're putting, the ball bearing rings, that's what these are, they have sides. They have a open side and a closed side. Let's see if I can bring that in a little closer to you. That's the closed side. That's the open side. You can see that. It's open. There it is. And that makes a difference because you want the open side to be in the frame and the closed side to be exposed to outside of the car, because the dirt is less likely to come in the closed side as opposed to the open side. So for example, right here I'm putting a bearing in here, and I'm putting the wheel hub in here, and so the closed side should go toward the wheel. It's going to go like this. This is going in like that. So the bearing, the open side should go through the wheel, because the open side, if you do it that way, it's sealed, whereas dirt can get in from the other side. And you do the opposite on the outside of the hub. When you're doing the outside, the closed side should be to the outside. Okay. Okay, so the right front suspension, lower suspension arm is in place, and it looks good. However, initial observation, this has a little more play in it than the plastic. This is metal, and the metal doesn't give any when you tighten things, so it has a little bit of play in it. In the wheel, you can see it moving back and forth, and I'm really not too happy with that, but I know how I can mitigate it. The reason why it has to play is because the metal has this, bring it up closer, you can see the metal has a space in it, and there's nothing compensating for the space, so it moves around. So my fix on it is to get like a nylon washer or a plastic washer to put in here, and that would tighten it up. I should have shipped with some nylon washers, but it didn't, so it wiggles around a little bit. And also this could have been, this axle could have been a little tighter too as well, but I think the nylon washers will take that up. So next I'm gonna put the other wheel on, and then the back wheels, and it'll be all done. Okay, so both the wheels are in place and next to the shock towers, but I think I'm gonna need a wheel alignment because it looks like they're going out a little bit, and so I'm gonna do that once I get the shocks on. Okay, so the new suspension is in place and the car is now repaired. So, what do you think? Does it look better with the blue or better with the black? It looks pretty cool. Alright, so, what I have to do, one thing I know I have to do is that I have to give my car a wheel alignment, because if you look at it, the wheels are going out, which will affect the handling. And so these bars that we talked about here, these are the tie rods, they're adjustable. And so they adjust the toe in and the toe out. So if I shoot my hands like this, toe in and toe out. And so each characteristic of toe in and toe out has an advantage. In real cars, I believe they slightly in real cars toe in just a little bit to help them go straight. I might be incorrect, but I know when you get a wheel alignment in a real car, it's not perfect straight. It's toeing in a little bit. So I'm going to adjust these to get it. I'm gonna get mine perfectly straight, and then we'll see how it runs. Alright, so if you look at it, the right wheel is the one that seems to be the most straight, whereas the left wheel is really out there. So I'm going to adjust the steering trim. Steering trim is this button right here, and what that does, it aligns the wheels to go straight. It's the radio control of the alignment of the wheels. So if you notice, if I turn it, it's the throttle trim, wrong one, steering trim, and it's going to stay where the neutral position, it adjusts the neutral position. So as I adjust the steering trim, it's going to keep this in the neutral position. Oh, shoot. Gotta be careful. So that looks correct for this wheel. So now I'm going to adjust the wheel alignment, the mechanical wheel alignment for the left wheel. First, I'm going to turn the power off. Okay, does that look better? The wheels look straighter, don't they? And when I turn, they look good. It's kind of jittery. I think the jitteriness is because this car was designed with a 3S battery, and I'm running it with the. I'm doing the steering. I'm testing the steering with the 2S battery. So, but the key is the steering. The wheels are straight, and it doesn't appear to be slamming against any other framing like it was before. So it looks good. The WLtoys 124008 is back in the lineup. It has its new suspension with the successful repair. So if you look at the suspension, it's got the custom blue aluminum lower control arms, and I got the wheels aligned properly, and it is ready to go. In addition, both the differentials have had what they call a lube job. I put the white lithium grease in both the differentials, so it is all set and ready to go. Take a look at it, the body off. All right, back in the lineup. So this is a repair that you'll probably have to do multiple times, because if you're an RC car enthusiast or hobbyist and you like running your cars, inevitably you're going to break them. But that's part of the fun. Not necessarily breaking the car, but fixing it and upgrading and learning about the procedure on how to maintain your car. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and remember, do something good for yourself. Do something good for your community. Do something good for your people, and you can be someone good for the world. RC Boy.